Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to call the Select Board meeting for Monday, May 12th, 2025 to order, and note that we will be entering into executive session and returning no sooner than 6 p.m. I get a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to enter into executive session for the following reasons. Item A, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special or federal granted aid requirements, the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Sections 21F and G, to review, approve, and/or discuss the possible release of executive session meeting minutes dated March 17, 2025, March 24, 2025, and March 31, 2025. Item B, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for all town unions and non-union personnel and at contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and the chair has determined that open session would have a detrimental effect on the town's bargaining position. And finally, item C, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Finance Director.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Pete?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. 4-0, Joe. Thank you. Jamie, you ready?
Third time going
Thank you.
around.
Exactly.
Good evening. I would like to call the Select Board meeting for May 12th, 2025 back to order, noting that we were in executive session and we took action on item A, approving the minutes. So if you'd all like to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. So we'll start with staff comments and announcements. Thank you all for being here. Do we have any staff in the room? Emily, would you like to start? I see elections, so I'm assuming that would be you.
Good evening, Emily Mitchell. I was thrilled to make your agenda. This is a first for me, so thank you for the pleasure.
Thank you.
So we do have the annual town election scheduled for next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, Tuesday, May 20th. Polls will be open at the Harwich Community Center, 100 Oak Street, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. For folks who prefer to vote early, we do have the option for folks to vote early by mail. We are fast approaching the deadline. The deadline for anyone who wishes to apply to vote by mail is tomorrow, Tuesday, May 13th at 5 p.m. We have to have received that application by that 5 p.m. deadline tomorrow, but anyone who applies by the deadline is eligible to vote by mail, and you are required to return that mail ballot to our office by close of polls 8 p.m. on May 20th. And then for any folks who qualify to vote absentee, so those are folks who will be out of town on election day, or anyone with a physical disability that prevents them from voting at the polling place, or a religious reason not to vote at our polling place. Those folks are also eligible to vote what's called absentee in person. So they can come to our office during regular business hours all the way up to May 19th, the day before the election at noon. They fill out a brief application, and then they can vote in person right at the clerk's office. We set up a little private voting booth in the hallway for those folks to cast their ballots. So early in person for folks who qualify, early by mail for anyone who's interested, or of course in person May 20th, election day at the community center.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
And I will ask Ellie, if Ellie, would you like to come up and tell us about all the wonderful things happening at the treasure chest? If you just state your name for the record, please.
Ellie Gerson, clerk of the Treasure Chest Committee. And I'm proud to announce that on maybe Memorial Day weekend, we're going to open 3 days. The committee has approved the motion, and we're going to try for Memorial Day through Labor Day to be open 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, same hours.
Excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you for your
that's
support.
great news.
We intend to pass out flyers about getting stickers. We noticed that the information about buying stickers is out now, so we want to inform our clients about that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, and
Thank
thanks
you.
for being here.
You're welcome.
Any other staff for staff comment? If not, I have two quick things. Don Howell, Select Board Member Howell, will be presiding on, for the Select Board on the Memorial Day ceremony, which is going to be held May 26, 2025, at 9:30 a.m. at Brooks Park. And for those of you who are sitting and waiting for the Select Board member office hours to begin again, I will be starting that again myself. It's not Select Board office hours, it's Select Board member office hours, just to be clear. And that will begin again shortly, and I will have my date and my time picked for the next one, and I will announce that at next week's Select Board meeting. So that is it for staff comments and announcements. Joe, would you like to give us the weekly briefing, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to you, the members of the board, everyone assembled. The look ahead for the Phase 3 sewer extension for East Harwich. Between May 12th and May 23rd, the One East project continues on Route 39, Orleans-Harwich Road. Specifically, there is continued construction within the street and the road right-of-way on Route 39, which is impacting on town or public property. They're installing gravity sewer laterals. There's temporary paving in that area, and police and traffic control officers remain in place for that. 2 West Pleasant Bay Road area, specifically continued construction within the street and right-of-way, Pleasant Bay Road, again on public property. And continued on Pleasant Bay Road will consist of gravity sewer main, force main, manhole, and right-of-way off of public property. Police and traffic control officers in place, so that is, again, for the weeks of May 12th through May 23rd. And that is the briefing.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Anyone?
Excuse me, Patrick Otten, can you give us the hours of operation when all this is being done? You're giving us the days, but can you give us the hours?
Through the chair, I'm sure.
Please.
So the construction hours are mandated by the contract no earlier than 7 a.m., no later than 7 p.m. They don't give specific hours because they can change day to day.
Thank you, Joe. Anyone for public comment and announcement?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I'm gonna go to the microphone.
Give it 2 seconds. Hold on, we have someone there already, dear.
That's right, I can. It'll take,
Okay.
no, you go ahead, it'll take me a
Take you a
while.
while to get there, Willie. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Marjorie Peist, and I live at 1188 Orleans Road, and I'm here to advocate for senior citizens. This year, you've changed the buying of the beach passes to mailing in and computerized, or you do have certain days that you are open. However, the days that you've chosen, July 1st, that's the busiest week of the season. And I think a lot of your senior citizens, I know, I spoke to people, I've been asking people, and they don't even know about it. When I tell them this, they go, what do you mean we're not going to buy stickers? I said, you can buy it, but you have to do it online, or you have to do it through mail. When you do it through mail, you also have putting personal information out that can get lost in the mail. And I think it's unfair to the senior citizen population if they don't have an access to buy it. I think I've bought it for 28 years, the middle of June. That's a reasonable time. I think that you need to offer that too. And I don't want to just advocate for seniors, I want to advocate for everyone. But I am a senior, and I deal primarily with seniors. And I think as taxpayers and residents, we deserve, that to be a consideration. If the seniors don't buy their stickers, the revenue will go down in the town. And it is also not good for seniors, because if they're not being social and they're not being active, that's going to cause mental health issues. If they don't go to the treasure chest and bring things, that's going to be things that are left on the road. And if they're not going to bring their things to the recycle center, that's all going to go in the landfill. So I think you have to really consider that July 1st is way too late for purchasing stickers. And I've gotten phone calls from friends that are second homeowners and talked to them. And as I said, I do a lot of volunteering, and when I ask anyone if they know that this is available, the way it is available now, they don't know the change because they don't go on the website. Not everyone is technically savvy, so I'm here to advocate for those people.
Thank you very much. Can you give me your name one more time, please?
Marjorie Peist, 1188 Orleans Road.
Thank you, Marjorie.
Marjorie, that was lovely. Now listen to this.
Okay. Let's, I think we should all sit down for this.
And I didn't pay her to say any of that. Good evening, Mr. Handler, members of the board, Mr. Powers. I guess this might be the last town meeting that I see you as town
Come sit
administrator.
next to you at regular meetings.
Well, you'll have to sit up there though.
Perfect,
because-
even better.
Okay, you two, we have about a 3-minute time limit on every speaker here, so let's,
So,
To my time.
thank you.
to expound on what that lovely lady Marjorie just said. When the first notice came out at the Recreation Department,
Could you just give your name for the record, please?
Terry Canavan.
Thank you, Terry.
Anybody don't know me?
No, we all know you, but it's a procedural thing, thank you.
There was a real disgruntled group that I spoke up for. And I know, Mr. Handler, you've met many of them because you came to our pizza party once. They don't do tech things. They don't know about this phone thing. They don't know how to download anything. They don't have copy machines. So we moved the needle a little to absolutely never in person to now July 1st. Well, let me just make a quick comment. The transfer station stickers are only good till June 30th. You're putting an undue pressure on everybody. So yours truly came today in person to do my voting. And while I was here, I made my check out for my beach and transfer station stickers, and it was rejected. Because, July 1st. And I said, thank you very much. I'm asking for an ADA accommodation because I can't always walk in this building. I can't always walk in any building. I can't always drive my car, but I do my best, and I'm still standing. And I'm here tonight because I was in the emergency room yesterday, and I got some more IV meds so I could walk. And I made it here out of sheer determination tonight. But let me just say, this is the most draconian policy that I've read in a long time. I've been a owner here and a taxpayer for 37 years almost. This isn't the way it should be. Let people be people. 90% of the people in this town are probably over 60. Give them a break. If they can come to town hall tomorrow, for goodness sakes, why can't they have their beach sticker and their treasure chest sticker and just put them on the list for the dump sticker? You don't want them getting trash in their homes or out on the streets, or God only knows where it might be. Let's be smart and change today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. Anybody else public comment?
I'm Marguerite Heffernan, and, I realize the town, but the new year begins July 1st, because it's a state-regulated thing. Okay, and I'm pretty sure all our dump stickers expire June 30th. So that means most of us will not be able to go to the dump until July 10th. And like these two nice ladies said, I know how to use the computer, but it doesn't mean I'm going to give the town or anyone else my information by using it. And the last time I tried to order a sticker online, it got lost, and it was a fiasco. So I ended up having to come into town hall and redo it. And a good majority of us are seniors here. So why can't we buy stickers starting June 15th, before the crowds come? And, unless all of you selectmen want to come and pick up our trash starting July 1st, we don't mind leaving a note for you. Thank you for picking up our garbage. but unless there's a new way. And I'm pretty sure we need beach stickers before July 1st, because as soon as the individuals become lifeguards, the beach is open. So that means June 21st, we need a beach sticker. So do we have to do all of that online? So you're asking all of us to spend all our money, and instead of seeing a human face, we're seeing a computer face. That's really unfair to everyone in this room. I'd rather see a human being face. When I go to the grocery store to buy groceries, I almost always go to a cashier because I don't want to have that person unemployed. So I feel like by us doing this on computers, maybe we're going to unemploy one of the town employees because all of a sudden they're not going to be usable, which is unfair to the town as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Matt Sutphin, Harwich Center. Couple of things. My comment on the two previous speakers would simply be, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And apparently, people have been thinking too much about something that wasn't broken. My question is, I'm not clear on the agenda tonight as to whether or not you are going to permit some of us to speak about particular articles later in the evening.
Which ones?
Tree warden.
Can you point me to a number and a letter?
Mr. Chair, I believe he's speaking about the annual town meeting recap. That's the
That's
only
it.
place it would apply.
Understood.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yes.
Thank you.
No, there will not be public dialogue with the recap. It's a recap from the board.
I see. Well, I'll just take this opportunity to put myself on the record.
Please.
I think the Select Board enjoyed a very positive response to hire a tree warden in the future. I don't know if it's the board's expectation that I carry some more water here to see that happen, or if you're all willing to be proactive to create the funding for one. I'm sure, thinking ahead, you can shave 1,000 here and 500 there and find the funds for a tree warden. But I'm left wondering where that petition stands. So I hope to see some proactive part with the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, public comment?
Good evening, Select Board. Patrick Otten, East Harwich. Question. Are you familiar at all with the Cape Cod Commission study called Vision Zero? They had a meeting held in the Harwich Library last month, and absolutely none of you were there. So I'm curious whether or not you're aware of the Vision Zero and the study of traffic problems in the town of Harwich. You should become familiar with it, absolutely. Specifically, before any additional building occurs and adding thousands more residents to our town, Vision Zero needs to be supported and implemented. All the recommendations for the traffic problems that Harwich has today, let alone in future traffic problems, need to be addressed today. I'm going to ask the Select Board to put the Vision Zero on your agenda and begin taking actions now instead of waiting when the problem multiplies severely and we have more and more problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Anyone else, public comment?
Good evening. My name is Anita Doucette, and I am the president of the Harwich Historical Society, and I'm here tonight to invite the Select Board to our annual meeting, which is going to happen on Saturday, May 17th at 1 o'clock. The reason I'd like to invite the members of the board is we have had a wonderful crew of people. Sean Libby, his whole group, have done an absolutely beautiful job with the first floor of that building. It came out absolutely wonderful. We're very proud of it. And I would just like to take this minute, I'll be real quick, to publicly thank Sean Libby and his crew for doing such a beautiful job. And I'd also like to thank Bobby Parr, Herb Bell, Lynn Zalazak, Terry Werner, Cindy Eldridge, Carol DeChristopher, and Linda Sabula for all their work that they've done in setting up the displays for the rooms and getting ready for our annual meeting. Like I said, it's going to happen this Saturday at 1 o'clock, and I'd really love to have you see what what Sean Libby and his crew has done for the inside of this building. It really is beautiful, and I'm so honored to be the president of this group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think that the meeting's going to be at Brooks Academy.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
I'm just making sure.
I had my note right in front of
That's
me, and
quite all
I
right.
just, yes, it is Brooks Academy.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Anyone else, public comment?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir?
to a few previous speakers about stickers, I too have gotten many complaints. I want to make it crystal clear to the public, that's not a Board of Selectmen decision. That was done internally. So I would ask that you, when you meet with the town administrator this week, at least have a conversation and maybe get something on the agenda for next week and see if there's any other path that we can take to make stickers available sooner to the public. But that was not a Board of Selectmen decision or policy.
Can I just ask one more question?
Mr. Chairman, as you wait for the speaker to approach, may I ask, is the board waiving your policy and talking about matters? Because I could certainly speak to this. However, your policy does not have you get into a back-and-forth discussion under public comment.
I would
I was gonna
prefer not, I would prefer.
Keep my remarks under town administrator.
Yes, and
but-
I will hear, just so.
It's just one question.
I'll let you.
And you can
Excuse-
bring
hold
it
on
to
one
the
second.
administrator.
Just so the public understands before I let this get
Right,
even more out of control
Right.
than it is right now.
right.
Public comment and announcement is only for the select board to listen and hear, not for us to respond.
Right,
So
right.
I'll allow you to have one more little say here at public comment.
And I just want you to bring it before the board,
Thank you.
okay? I don't want you to, because I do understand that, okay?
I've written it down.
But the one thing I do want you to ask them, since we're not allowed to make purchases supposedly before July 1st, just ask them what we're supposed to do about going to the beach, going to the dump, et cetera. Anything that needs, because it's just going to put a stress on everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, we're already done with public comment here. I can't open it up for back and forth. But keep an eye out for an agenda item, and the board will talk about that later on tonight, maybe at Select Board member report.
Point of information?
Sure, Terry, come on up.
Just so you know,
Terry, you have to go to the mic, please.
I'm so
Or you
sorry.
can just use Michael's if you'd like. That way you don't have to move it all the way over there.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
Just so you know, my paid signed check is in the building still. And I wouldn't be upset at all if somebody brought me a beach sticker over to the community center. I will be there for indoor walking, 11 a.m. sharp. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that point of information.
On that, Michael?
No, Select Board Member Howell will be picking up trash too, if we don't get this done.
I'm not gonna put a bow on it.
It was all worth it, just for that one point, I'll tell you.
Not to.
All right, let's bring this home here. Consent agenda, Mr. Pekarsky, could we bring some levelness to this meeting, right?
I'm not sure I'm the person for that, but let's give it a shot.
Give it a go.
Any member of the board wish to remove any items from the consent agenda?
Remove D for me, please, is just a few things.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Motion to approve item A, the resignation of Robert Donat, the Historic District and Historical Commission Representative on the Community Preservation Committee, effective May 31, 2025. Item B, appoint John Harker to the Barnstable County Dredge Subcommittee with a 3-year term, June 1, 2025 to December 31, 2027. And vote to appoint William Nizer as alternate to the Barnstable County Dredge Subcommittee with a 3-year term, June 1, 2025 to December 31, 2027.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. 4-0.
Did you want to take D separately or just not at all?
You know, I'm looking for where Mr. Duncan Berry's name, it was page 11. I just want to find, thank you. Just give me a second, Pete, if you don't mind.
Take your time. I've got all night. 7:30, I go home.
I know that's why I'm sweating at the moment, trying to find this. Why don't you run both for me? Actually, do them one at a time, if you don't mind, Pete.
Motion to approve the Select Board meeting minutes from April 16, 2025, as
Second.
written.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 4-0, Joe.
Motion to approve the Select Board meeting minutes from April 28, 2025, as written.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think that's the one with the Barry.
It is.
And I'm Mr. Kavanaugh, which maybe that would have been more helpful in my term on the board.
So, Mr. Kavanaugh, if we make the change, would you be okay with approving this tonight?
Yes.
Yes, and I will find where Mr. Duncan Berry's name is misspelled, and I will get that over to administration, but I believe we can also approve this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, sorry,
No,
Pete?
my motion was as written, so as amended.
As amended. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0, Joe.
Thank you.
And I just want to publicly thank Mr. Doan for all his work on the Historic District and Historical Commission over his time serving our town.
Well, if I could, that's just for his representation on the Community Preservation Committee.
Well, I'm going to
Still
thank
got-
him anyway, he's a great guy.
There you go.
All right,
He did a
thanks.
great job in the Community Preservation.
He's done one hell of a job.
There you go.
Thanks, Mr. Doan. New business. Mr. Pete.
Motion to approve a temporary closure for Brack's Landing, 705 Route 28, Harwich Port, closing May 5, 2025 through May 19, 2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just that this is for a septic replacement?
That's correct. And we were notified, town meeting got a little bit in the way, so that's why it's already happening. And the owner, who's been a great partner of the town, has made it clear to us that he did make the attempt to get us the information prior, but town meeting got in the way. So, moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. Okay, debrief on the 2025 annual town meeting. Who would like to begin?
I have nothing.
Julie?
No, I think it was a successful town meeting. I thank Joe and Megan and Natasha. And I just want to thank administration for all their efforts. Joe, Megan, Natasha, Jen Clark, Danielle, who did other prep work prior to her leaving, for all the hard work. And I think we had a great debatable different articles and got some good results. So I think it was a productive town meeting.
Pete?
Not a lot to say. You know, I appreciate all the folks that come out to town meeting. It's their opportunity to have their voice heard. I think a personal takeaway is that I need to get off my ass a little bit faster when I want to speak.
0 for 2.
0 for 2.
Yeah.
I think that might have been deliberate, but that's okay. But no, you know, what I get caught up in is I truly, as much as my wife will disagree with me, I want to hear what the other folks have to say before I just start rambling. As you all know, I like to ramble. And as I start to absorb what they're saying, I kind of get lost as I'm writing some notes, and then next thing you know, somebody's calling the question on me. So be it. I'll get up a little bit sooner next time. But overall, again, I loved that we had some discussion on the actual budget. Wasn't that refreshing? Typically, you can sit there and fly through $100 million at a blink of an eye, but then we get stuck on a $10,000 tree limb or something else. So anyway, it was great to have that discussion. I hope it continues to, resonate with folks that we spend awful lot of town in this money, an awful lot of money in this town. There you go. And you know, I find it interesting that a couple $100 to one person isn't much, but I know how it impacts others. And so is a fine line you try to balance as to the financial impact on the people within the community. And often the voices who can't afford it aren't there to speak. So as much as I appreciate all those folks that that show up to town meeting. There are other folks in town who aren't there, and we represent all of them. So I'm thrilled that we got out of there in 2 nights. I wasn't optimistic going into night 2, so I was thrilled that we got out of there. And overall, again, I think it was a good couple nights, and I'm glad it's in our rearview mirror.
Thank you, Pete, and I will just say a few things. First, I'll say thank you to Joe. That was 6 very successful town meetings. Thank you for all your effort. What's that?
It's 8, but thank you. 6 budgets, 8 town meetings, but I appreciate the compliment.
Let me start that again. Joe, thanks for your 8 town meetings and 6 successful. And I'll add staff, fantastic job. The big light in my face that was shining above my head was good for 3 or 4 nights of headaches when I got home. The staff did an outstanding job, Jamie and the crew, and thanks to the select board. I think we did a fine job of putting together a good warrant. Thank you to the finance committee. As I stated, they were extremely helpful and cooperative, and I look forward to working with them in this coming fiscal year. And last but definitely not least, thank you to the voters. You know, it's a different view, for sure, when you're sitting at the select board table looking out. You get to see a lot of facial expressions, you get to see a lot of nodding of the heads, right up and down, left and right, sideways, some eyeballs rolling back in the head. But at the end of the day, that's exactly how things were supposed to go. So, you know, I've been asked a bunch since town meeting, how do I think it went? My answer is I think it went exactly how it was supposed to go. The voters voted, they were informed, they asked great questions, they got, you know, more educated. I got more educated on town meeting floor. The passion, I thought, was fantastic. To Mr. Supfin's point, it didn't fall on deaf ears that the tree warden article overwhelmingly had support. So I've actually put it on Facebook, believe it or not on the Harwich Old Timers, but on Harwich page, that I will agenda that item, because it is not the job of this select board to goaltend. And as I stated, I think at your petition, during your petition, that it was non-binding. But for me, it was so much more than that. It was an education as to what the voters are looking for and what we, the select board, need to hear. I will also say that there were multiple other things that came up, and I kept my list and I wrote it down, and I'm going to agenda those items as soon as I can find a space to put them. And but again, I think it went just the way it should have, and I thank every voter for coming out and having their voice be heard. So I don't really have anything more to add. Joe, would you like to say anything about annual town meeting?
Certainly, just from the, thank you for the kind words, and I agree with staff, and we'll pass that along. Procedurally, however, tomorrow we have our department head meeting, and that's where we begin the work of getting into fiscal year 2026. So if you think of any of the appropriations that will be projects, those will be added to our project list, and the procurements will start working in anticipation of the funding being available July 1st. So the next steps are to work towards fiscal year 26. We will also tomorrow discuss the steps to close out fiscal year 25 as well. I agree with the overall sentiment. I think it was a successful town meeting, especially when you look at it through the prism of our operating budget and our capital plans. And I do appreciate the support that we all received from the town. So
Thank you, Joe.
thank you, and more work to be done.
I'll just add one thing. I really do appreciate all of the voters who got up and spoke, that this, the conversation never turned personal. The conversation was about the article, or the articles, and I really do respect and appreciate that. We can disagree, and we can have our discussion, but as long as it doesn't turn personal, we're all going in the right direction. So that's how I'll end. So again, thank you to all who came out and voted. Now we move on to new business C. Discussion on interim town administrator. Votes may be taken. So I will turn it over to the board here to get some input from the board as to what the board feels the appropriate next steps should be. I will state that since select board, sorry, excuse me, just if you could, the mics can pick up your voice, so if you could just hold off on conversation. Thank you. Dawn's not here. I wish Dawn were here. I'd like Dawn to be able to weigh in on this. But I think at least we can begin the discussion tonight and get an understanding as to what direction the board may want to go regarding the interim town administrator. So who would like to begin?
I don't mind.
Julie,
starting. I
please.
mean, I would think that the obvious choice would be to move Megan into the interim position. Am I not?
Yeah,
All right. All right, so I'm just, is that better?
Much.
So I would say that we would move Megan Eldridge into the interim town administrator position, and that's where I'll start.
Anyone else? All right, so hearing no one else, I guess we'll wait. Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right, putting thoughts together. So, you know, I think the conversation needs to be a broader conversation on, rather than just focus right now on who we're gonna put into the chair of town administrator. So, I think it goes hand in hand on how we approach a long-term or the short-term thought process of if we're bringing on a search firm to seek a new town administrator, are we going to look to establish a committee of residents to work with the consultant, again, if we go that route? And then how does that conversation play out with the consultant and their thoughts on an interim basis? And all I can tell you is based on what I experienced 20 years ago. And the interim, it was a bit different in the sense that the town administrator resigned to take a job elsewhere, and Bill probably knows this better than I do as far as the logistics, but, and then the interim was our assistant town administrator, who then also took a job elsewhere. And we ended up bringing in a search firm who brought in, assisted us with bringing in an interim while we searched for the permanent replacement. So, and I don't want to really like say too much in the sense of personnel, but in the larger discussion of who we see going into the permanent role will be a factor in my thought process of how we fill it temporarily and the thought of also a search firm or a search or a team to help us, you know, a team of community members to help the consultant go through the search process. So I think I would need a larger conversation, and I know it can happen tonight or it can happen when Dawn's here, of how we foresee moving forward in its entirety before I say, okay, let's put someone, and no disrespect to the name that was mentioned, of course. But do we, if that's the best decision for right now, or is that gonna impact a longer-term decision as well? So it's somewhat convoluted, but again, I just want us, I think it has to be a broader conversation before we just say one person.
For the interim town administrator.
Yeah.
Okay. Michael?
I would agree. I think it has to be a much longer conversation. I would love Dawn to be here. You're also changing boards in 2 weeks, so there are two new candidates, two new board members are going to be weighing in on this heavily. So I'm not sure it shouldn't wait until then. Certainly, we'll have plenty to say if we put this on next week. But I would agree with Pete that we shouldn't just go right to an interim. I would also think that a search committee, which is the way we went last time, feels a little redundant to me. I believe if we're going to hire a consultant, that should be a board's decision on who we hire, whether or not we get citizens together after the fact to do interviews and be part of that. But I think that the board should pick the search firm based on their merits. And then the only other thing I would say is looking at town administrator salary study basically done for the whole Cape. And it's been pointed out before, we're on the low end of that spectrum. So for me, if we're gonna attract talent from another town, off Cape or on Cape, we need to be in that 210 to 230 range to get anyone to want to apply for this job. So that should be part of it, and what kind of person we're looking for to be our town administrator.
So just from a clarity standpoint, when you're speaking of search firm, we right now are discussing the interim town administrator. Are you suggesting a search firm for the interim town
No,
administrator?
just the process in general.
Okay. So, please.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I'm just going back to the previous time that I had left the board and the town administrator was gone. And that process was that the ATA moved in to be the interim, which is where I was going with that, because that's what we have done in the past, and that's what we do in most case scenarios. We have an assistant, and that person takes over for that person when they're no longer available. So to me, I understand where both of you are going on a larger scale, and I agree with you in the sense that there's 2 other people coming onto this board. But I don't understand the need to say that you're going to table that discussion in terms of planning, because it doesn't preclude then going out for search, separate conversation for a town administrator. So we have an ATA who would step into the acting role, and it would take its course from there. So I guess my question is there, without Dawn here, if you want to bring this back next week, but I just have questions on why we would change the process.
Yeah, and I don't think anything's going to get decided here tonight. Both topics, the interim town administrator and the town administrator search, just an initial discussion. But I hear what you're saying, respect it. I'm going to take a stab at the charter, Mr. Powers, if you just correct me if I'm not getting it right, but I read it multiple times, this piece, just to see if so, and this is not an easy conversation to have, I'll be the first one to say that. The charter specifies that when the town administrator's seat is vacated, that the assistant town administrator shall become the acting town administrator. How am I doing so far?
Close.
See, I knew it. Go ahead, fix it.
So you're referring to Chapter 4, which is the town administrator. Section 4-10 talks about acting town administrator, so we actually use the title acting instead of interim. It says that generally, when there's a vacancy, so you will have a vacancy after June 30th, that the assistant town administrator can be the acting town administrator. It also identifies other individuals, so the description would be a member of the community, a member of the board, or other person.
Thank you. And that if it is not the assistant town administrator who steps in to fill that role, there would be an action needed by the select board.
Correct.
Okay, that's kind of where I was going with
Sure,
that.
there are other references. Section 4-10A talks about that the assistant town administrator fills in the absence of the town administrator. So that's, to personalize it, that's what I've done over my time here. So that's one part of it. 410B talks about when it's vacant, when you need to fill it for whatever reason.
Right. So to the points that the board members have made here so far, the assistant town administrator by default, if there's no action taken by the board on June 30th or July 1st, would then step into the role. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Okay. So this board would need to take an action if we want a different outcome. So I think at this point, unless the board's got anything else to say about the interim town administrator, I think we can move on to item D. Yes, Michael, thank you, of course.
Yeah, and I blended them, so my previous comments stand.
Yeah.
As it refers to Megan Eldridge, since that name was put out there, the Assistant Town Administrator, and just for Select Board Member Kavanaugh, I had no problem with that. I think she's done an excellent job, is doing an excellent job, and is very capable of setting into that seat. I'd still like to hear her personally say she wants to, and then what the board's plan's gonna be to take her role so that she has the amount of support that she needs to actually run the town as the assistant. That hasn't happened. The other thing that has come up many times in many towns is when there's an internal applicant. I believe this just happened in a search, maybe it was Braintree, but when there's an applicant that is an internal and an assistant town administrator, then they step into the role. People don't, a lot of people will not apply for that job knowing that an internal candidate may just get the job. So I'd at least like to have that conversation out loud. I'd like to see what our assistant town administrator has to say about it and what everybody else's opinion is on it before I make a decision. Given that we have until June 30th, I don't see any reason to do any of that tonight. We have a little bit of time to have those conversations, and I'll stop there.
Pete, you have anything you want to?
Yeah, so Michael kind of went down the path that I was struggling to articulate. So, and again, this has nothing to do with our assistant town administrator. And so it's tough to separate the two, right? Because we're talking about a position that somebody currently holds in town. But to Michael's overall point, if you have your assistant town administrator step into a role, and then that individual has a desire to take that role permanently, not only may it impact candidates from applying, but it also may impact some of the consultants from having an interest in working with us, because they see as the scale is tipped as well. So that's why I'm talking about a broader conversation, and whether it's the five of us or if we wait till the after the election, that's up to you folks. But more conversations need to be had, because there's no sense doing one without thought of the other. That's why I lumped them together as well. I think the two have to be part of one conversation.
Thank you. Julie? So I'll agree to a point. There's part of me that feels differently, and I'll leave it at that. But I will agree wholeheartedly with a little more conversation needs to be had. I think the fifth Beatle, Ringo, John, I don't know who he is, but he'll need to be here for this. I think it would be not right, not proper to do really a lot of the deep dive into this without Select Board Member Howell here. So thank you all for your input on item C. And now let's move to item D. And again, certainly, you know, at the macro level, let's have a discussion. And then when Dawn gets back next week, we can begin a deeper discussion. So is anyone, I heard search firm, I heard search committee. Obviously, we're gonna need some help and direction. I'd like to hear more about a search committee, though. How the board feels about having a group of our peers be part of this process. So I think, Michael, you had mentioned not in favor of that, is that?
I'm up in the air on it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think it's a board decision on which route we go, and then once we get a consultant / search firm, I'd love their thoughts on what their recommendations for the community piece of it would be. But I would like to start with the board picking or interviewing search firms and consultants to get us through this process.
So, thanks to Joe, sent me an email today at 3 o'clock, which I forwarded to the board, a list of 5 search firms.
4.
4 search firms. Thank you, Michael. Can always count on you for a correction, especially at this point. So 4 search firms. And we can explore those over the next week, and then obviously this will be an agenda item on Monday night. Do you have anything you want to, next Monday night, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I participated in the last search committee for town administrator, and I thought it was we had a great group of people and different backgrounds, and had a good experience going through the candidates. The only thing I'll say is, you know, obviously by the time you make the decision on which way to go, we can spend a lot of money on a search firm if that's what your new board decides to do. But I would also point out that, you know, we've seen towns around us do some of the same in coming up with not candidates from abroad, I'll put it that way, and more local And ultimately, one of the biggest problems is housing. So I think when you're going to look at a search firm, be realistic about who those applicants might be and how they end up in front of you and what's their wherewithal to be committed to the community, so.
Thank you, Julie. Pete?
No, not much to add. You know, and I think I shared with you folks back when we were struggling with the finance director candidates way back when, months ago. It could have been a year ago at this point, that I had reached out to a couple of search groups, and 3 out of the 4 that Joe provided were the entities that I discovered. I spoke to 2 of them back then, just to try to get a feel for how they approached that, which was, again, a finance director role. And they did it similar to what I experienced 20 years ago on the TA side. And, you know, they do all the heavy lifting, but then the board appoints a search committee that works with that consultant to interview the candidates and bring a list of finalists forward to this board to decide who the finalist is. So I somewhat like that approach. I'm not married to it, but I would like, and the part I was gonna really get to, the significant part that I left off was, the 2 out of the 3 that I spoke to said that they would be willing to come in. Again, this was for a finance director role, to talk with us as far as how they go about the process. So I assume, you know, I know it's been a while since I spoke to them, but I assume they'd be willing to come before us to have a conversation, just to kind of let us know how they approach this and the steps they take, and maybe some success or failures that they've seen along the way.
Search committee of any value in your mind?
I think there's some value to it, but again, I'd love to hear from these folks as far as what they see.
Sure.
You know, does it help them? Does it hinder them? Is it neutral? Like, I'd love to hear their honest feedback on that.
Excellent.
I think there is some value, however.
Thank you. And I don't have anything to add. I think this is a broader conversation. I would just think that on Monday night of next week, we can discuss, you know, deliverables and dates, so that we can get the process moving. I also reached out to town council. She was nice enough to forward me what she considers to be best practices, and I'll send that to the board tomorrow. So unless there's anything else anybody else has to add on item D, anyone?
No.
Hearing none, let's go to old business, item A. Vote to approve a special permit application for an event for W. Patrick Lentil Second Summer Cycle, Inc., to be held on September 14th, 2025, from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. for a cycling event that will ride through the town of Harwich. So we had this on our agenda pre-town meeting, and I think a few members wanted to get a better understanding of the routes and potential closures. And we have 2 of our finest here, or one of our finest, and the other
One of them is being sent up.
2 of the finest, and 1 is being sent up. Here you go, Pete.
Good evening, Deputy Chief Hutton. I don't know if you had any specific questions before I get going about it, or anyone?
My main question was whether this involves road closures.
It does not. This is the 3rd year they've done the race. It seems to be getting bigger every year. First year in our town, and we've identified 6 spots that are probably going to need detail officers, but they've been told they need to follow the rules of the road. This is not a race, it's a ride. So if they stop at a stop sign, they have to wait, that type of thing. So it should be pretty smooth. We have had other rides go through town that haven't been a problem.
Who pays for the detail?
The charity.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
I move that we approve it as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for waiting.
Time.
Adam, always take the easy ones. Next one, Kevin's up.
Item B, discussion on contracted wastewater management consultant, and I'll say just, Joe, from the administrative standpoint, I don't think going forward, we need to have the contract in the.
Oh, they included it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's great. I'm glad they did. We always like to have more information than sometimes we need, but let's, we can take that out and just have a placeholder that says wastewater consultant discussion, or kind of like weekly briefing. I did get an email from Mr. Pelletier regarding a bog and HCT and another restoration project. I have yet to reach out to HCT to get a little bit more information, but I will tomorrow. And if anybody has anything this is why it's on the agenda, and as long as I'm chair, it'll stay on the agenda, just so if there's anything the board would like to have a discussion on how we would direct the consultant, we can do it, and we don't miss an opportunity. So is there any board member yeah, Michael?
Mr. Chair, given the passage of the Great Sand Lakes, or 3A project, it probably makes sense to now go to the town of Chatham and ask if they're interested in opening up negotiations with the town of Harwich for that flow, given that we did put the cart before the horse. That's one, and number two would be Dennis, town of Dennis, which will be a very important number to the people in this town if we have to build our own treatment facility. So we should probably start negotiations or conversations with the town of Dennis sooner rather than later, given the escalating debt.
So if it's all right with you, I'll wait until the ballot question before I reach out to Chatham, or?
All right with me.
Yeah. Joe?
So the towns have already been talking. We were going to have a meeting anyway
Great.
of the IMA group on the IMA. So I think that's going to be scheduled for the end of the month. I can divert that.
No, continue.
Otherwise, that's ongoing.
Yeah, continue. I think that would be fine. Pete, do you have anything you want to add?
No, just as far as when it comes to Dan, maybe in the next week or two, he can present us with a summary of what he's been doing for the past few weeks.
Sure. Julie?
No, that's fine.
Okay, I'll reach out to Dan tomorrow, and either next week or
Yeah.
following week, okay?
Mr. Chair,
Please?
I move that we approve a memorandum of understanding with Meals on Wheels as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're an aye, Pete?
I'm an aye.
4-0, Joe.
Thank you.
Item B, anybody?
Oh, I can make a motion.
Sure.
I move that we approve the following license agreements for the Cultural Affairs Programming located at 204 Sisson Road, which is A-06 Amanda Newcomb / Down Cape Design, and A-04 Shelma Pierre Dashi. Thank you. And that's it.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, if I could, just from my own
Absolutely.
understanding. So,
Please.
and I believe Cultural Director said, just the process, and were there multiple applicants, or are these the only two? Are there additional vacancies? Please and thank you.
Good evening, Karen Maloney, Director of Cultural Affairs. Yes, there was 10 applicants total for 2 studios that were open. These vacancies occurred because we had 2 people move. So one moved out of state and the other one ended up moving because it wasn't working out. So these studios have been vacated for 2 months, and the process that was initiated back in 2023 was an RFP process for license agreements per town property use per our town administrator. So part of that process is it goes out publicly through an RFP, open application, open at least 30 days minimum. We accept any applicants through that period of time. They're sealed, they go to town administration, and then we have a committee review with recommendations put forth as far as who should be getting that studio based on the way the RFP license agreement is written for the town. And then we just go through the pile, whittle it down, and figure out who's gonna be the best fit.
Okay, excellent.
You're welcome.
And that committee is town employees?
Yes,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0, Joe.
Thank you.
Item D?
I see, you mean.
C, I'm sorry, item C. Looked like a D.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, before there's a motion.
Absolutely.
Just, you'll see in the packet that since it was originally presented, the numbers have changed slightly. So these are the most up-to-date numbers in the memorandum. So more than sufficient, and any other questions that were around before have been answered, so I do recommend that the board approve.
Thank you, Joe.
So if anyone has any other questions, I'll yield, but otherwise I'll make a motion. Anyone? I move that we approve a contract extension with Robert B. Hour Company Incorporated for catch basin replacement and installation, contract not to exceed $1 million.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Town Administrator's Report. Pete, look at the clock.
So, Mr. Chairman, with the 40 minutes that I have left to discuss.
Second.
Thank you for that. First is just advising the board of a contract that was executed for parking lot paving. So this is for a contract with Parking Lines LLC for parking lot painting for the amount of $34,950. This is going to be covering various municipal parking lots, and there's an attachment that goes through that schedule. This comes from a previously available balance through the DPW's operating budget. So again, contract was appropriated at $35,329, and the actual cost came in under that, $34,950. Next one is a contract for appraisal services for the Safe Routes to Schools project. So as you know, we had the easements successfully adopted last week at town meeting. So in line with that, the town has contracted with Platt Real Estate Analysts, Platt Real Estate Analysts in the amount of $31,200 for primary and appraisal review services. And this is required for the temporary and permanent easements that will be taken after that vote approved by town meeting. The funding source for this is Chapter 90 funds. And again, as I said earlier, with the contracts you're signing now, that was factored into the funds available. And then last, Mr. Chairman, if it pleases the board, I can speak generally about our preseason sticker sales versus the sales that will occur during the season. So first and foremost, I do want to emphasize that the town has been, in my opinion, doing it somewhat incorrectly insofar as when folks buy stickers, they are meant, if they're not the daily or weeklies, they're meant to be a season pass, and the season is the fiscal year. So the practice that we had in years past of we're going to start ticketing at the end of June because the lifeguards are there was not proper. So that's why we're referring to these as preseason sticker sales. The season does match with the fiscal year of July 1 through June 30. So there's a grace period, for lack of a better word, for those extra days, and that's one of the things that we corrected with the process. Again, the concept has been with preseason sticker sales. I can tell the board that as we went through the budget, the the Treasurer Collector's Office did not carry on the exorbitant cost of seasonal part-time folks. We've always expected to do sales in person. The first focus was on the actual season year. The transfer station stickers have never been released prior to June 1st, according to the DPW director, and that is his preference going forward. Based on this feedback and also the work of the team, there was already analysis ongoing for the town to do some sort of in-person sales prior to July 1st. We're targeting after Memorial Day just because of staff availability. So I have every expectation that there will be in-person sales for sticker sales pre-season, so ahead of July 1st, for the month of June. So the team is working on that. We were already scheduled to come back post-town meeting, so we're going to correct the messaging that's incorrect that's out there, and this is meant to give everyone comfort. And personally speaking, I will tell you that I asked the team to apply what I lovingly refer to as the Ed and Peg scenario. And Ed and Peg are my parents. And I would think if my parents lived here, what would they want? And they would want to do it in person. So the launch was to first try to get as much sales done as we can, and sales are doing well, online and by mail. But we will never give up on the in-person sticker sales. Now, these in-person sticker sales will take place at town locations. So that is Town Hall, through the Collector's Office, and through the Community Center, specifically the Recreation Department on weekends. So we will have more information on that, and we are targeting that for June 1st. That's also targeted for the annual release of transfer station stickers, again, as the DPW director has said, is always June 1st.
Thank you very much for clearing that up. Just seems to be a communication.
I would agree with that assessment, and I appreciate all the feedback, and I appreciate the concern. It just demonstrates that we have great programs, and people want to make sure they can still avail themselves of those programs, and I think that is a testament to what we have available.
And thanks to Ed and Peg for
Sure. Well,
creating your,
Peg knows about it, Ed doesn't pay attention. He's watching, he's getting ready for the Celtics.
excellent.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Pete, do you have anything for us?
I do, actually, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm hoping that in a few weeks, whenever it's convenient, that we can agenda the topic of town council. And we can keep it pretty broad, but more specifically, in my world, the use of and the expenses associated with such use.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Anything else?
That's it for me.
Julie?
Just again, reiterate my thanks to, and I named some people earlier, but I just want to extend it to everybody, department heads, Jamie and her crew, Sarah Eaton, everybody who helped us with town meeting.
Thank you, Julie. Michael?
Nothing really, I just want to encourage everyone to get a hold of Select Board Member Howell for their trash pickup. I will share that with you, yes.
I hear you just dump it off right in front of his house, is what I'm hearing. I don't have anything either.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0, Joe.